In 2016, our unit was assigned to a remote installation buried deep inside a restricted sector of the Appalachian Mountains. The spot wasn't on any public map, and even on classified grids it appeared only as a blank, unnamed patch of forest. We called it Ridgepoint Listening Base, a place built only to monitor long-range, low-frequency signals that conventional satellites couldn't detect. The work was tedious, repetitive, and quiet, until it wasn't. On the eastern edge of our listening perimeter sat a jagged wall of mountains, sharp like broken teeth. Locals called it the Silent Ridge, though no one could tell us exactly why. Ask 10 villagers and you'd get 10 uneasy answers. Cursed land, a dead zone, a place where hunters vanished or where voices were eaten by the rocks themselves. Most of us dismissed the stories as mountain folklore until the day our recon patrol vanished. Alpha Team 3 seasoned SPECIALISTS was assigned to check seismic sensors placed near the ridge. They left at 0600 hours. They never made their scheduled check-ins. Their trackers showed a stable path. Then FLATLINED. No emergency pings, no radio call, no signs of struggle. Just gone. Command didn't panic outwardly, but when the lieutenant asked for volunteers for a rapid retrieval mission, none of us hesitated. The 4 of us were chosen: me, Staff Sergeant Hale, Corporal Rios, Specialist Turner, and Sergeant Maddox. We prepped by 0830 and stepped out by 900. We expected a routine search. We got something else entirely. Section I, the first SE. The moment we crossed into the deeper valley leading toward Silent Ridge, everything felt off. Subtle at first, like the air pressure was wrong. Birds chirped behind us but grew quiet as we advanced, until only the crunch of our boots remained. Then even that stopped. Literally around the 3-mile mark. Rios paused and tapped his ear. "You hear that?" he asked. We all stopped. The forest was still, not quite silent, like someone pressed mute on the world. Maddox stomped the ground. We saw his boot hit the leaves, but we heard nothing. We exchanged confused looks. Turner tapped the metal frame of his rifle. Again no sound. "Comes check," I said. Raising my radio, static responded. But not just normal static, it sounded like breathing. Slow, shallow, human-like. We all heard it. Even turning the radio off didn't stop the crackle. It faded slowly, like whatever caused it was drifting away. We kept moving, unsettled but determined. Alpha Team had disappeared somewhere ahead. We weren't leaving without answers. Section 2. The distorting forest. The deeper we pressed, the more the environment changed. It wasn't dramatic. It was gradual. The way a dream shifts without you noticing until suddenly you're in a different place. Trees bent at impossible angles, like they'd grown while dodging invisible pressure. Their bark showed strange linear marks, not carvings, not scratches. More like nature tried to draw symbols without knowing how. By the 5-mile mark, our compasses spun slowly in circles, pausing every few seconds as if trying to remember which way north was before giving up. We reached the first seismic sensor, a metal stake with blinking green lights. The sensor's log should have shown regular tremors. Instead, it displayed 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds, 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds, 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds, an entire 24-hour cycle wiped clean. Turner crouched beside it and frowned. "This shouldn't be possible," he muttered. "It's like the last day never happened." We pressed on. Then we found the first clue from Alpha Team. A red signal flare, glowing bright, suspended in midair. Not stuck on a branch, not caught on a spider web, just hovering. Rios reached toward it. The moment he touched it, the flare flickered like a glitching video, then vanished. No smoke, no ash, no heat. Just gone. "What the hell was that?" Maddox whispered. Wide-eyed. His whisper, though faint, echoed in a place where nothing else made sound. Section 3. Where light doesn't BHV 100 meters ahead, we discovered Alpha Team's flashlights lying on the ground. They were still powered on, but their beams didn't stretch outward normally. Halfway through the beam, the light simply stopped, as if the air swallowed it, like cutting a photograph in half. Rios passed his hand through the beam's edge and gasped. "It feels heavier," he whispered. He wasn't wrong. The air near the lights felt thick, like standing inside fog, even though the air was clear. Turner checked his GPS again. The device glitched, then displayed a line of characters. DONT look UP. We did. Not immediately, because panic froze us, but slowly, like something compelled us to obey. And when we finally raised our eyes, Section 4, the sky that BNT'd the sky above the ridge wasn't sky anymore. Clouds twisted down in a spiral funnel, like a whirlpool made of fog. Layers of atmosphere pulled toward the center, bending like fabric under a weight we couldn't see. Inside the spiral, flashes of movement appeared, shadows, silhouettes, shapes that didn't walk or fly but seemed to shift between layers like sliding behind sheets of glass. Turner lowered his rifle and whispered, "That's not weather." No. It wasn't. The air hummed. A sound with a vibration in our bones, like standing too close to an engine. We pressed forward, because Alpha Team had made it this far, and we had orders: retrieve them or retrieve their footage. But what we found instead wasn't human. Section V, the CIRCL. The trees ended abruptly, replaced by a perfectly round clearing, and natural in its symmetry. The ground inside was smooth, polished dirt, almost like stone. Our footprints stopped at the edge of the circle, so did Alpha Team's. Every boot print ended right there. None entered. Maybe they walked backward, Maddox suggested, though he sounded unconvinced. They didn't, I said. Look at the depth. They walked forward, then stopped. Rios stepped close to the boundary. "Why is it so perfect?" he muttered. "Even nature isn't this precise." Turner approached beside him, his breath shaky. "What if nature didn't make it?" he said before we could react. Maddox stepped forward to test the ground. The moment his boot touched inside, he froze mid-step, eyes open, breathing shallow, body rigid as stone, a half-finished step suspended in time. "Maddox!" We shouted silently because our voices made no sound. We grabbed him and yanked him back into the forest. He collapsed instantly, not unconsciously but gasping, shaking violently, his skin pale as frost. When he finally regained breath, all he could whisper was, "I wasn't frozen. I was somewhere else." But he couldn't explain more, or wouldn't. Section VAI, the PRECNC. We prepared to retreat, not because we were cowards, because something in that clearing was watching us. The leaves around us began to tremble, though there was no wind. Trees bent inward, their branches reaching like fingers. The ground pulsed faint waves of vibration, rolling under our boots. Then we heard it, not through our ears, through our minds. A whisper, "Return them." It wasn't English. It wasn't a language. It was emotion formed into thought, commanding, cold. Ancient. Turner fell to his knees, clutching his head. "Get out," he gasped. "It doesn't want us here." Rios grabbed his arm. "What the hell is it?" "I don't know," Turner said. His voice was barely a breath. "But it doesn't think we belong." Behind us, the spiral in the sky tightened, funneling downward. Inside it, shapes moved toward the clearing. Not descending, not flying, just appearing, growing sharper. Closer. We didn't wait. Section 7, the ESCAPS. We sprinted away. The terrain distorted like a folding map. Trees shifted position. Paths we'd traveled minutes before twisted into dead ends. The forest tried to confuse us. keep us inside its maze. More whispers flooded our minds. Return them, return them, return them. We ran faster. The air thickened, slowing our movements like pushing through water. The farther we got from the clearing, the more sound returned gradually. First distant wind, then the crack of a branch, then our footsteps. When we crossed back into normal forest, noise slammed into us like a shockwave pain. Overwhelming. We collapsed from the sudden sensory overload. But we were out alive, barely. Section 8. The afterremit back at the base. The medics evaluated us. Maddox had mild hypothermia despite the warm weather. Turner's heart rate spiked randomly for hours. Rios suffered disorientation like he'd been spun in circles. My own hearing rang for days. But the strangest part, everything we brought back, our cameras, GPS units, radios, sensor logs were wiped clean. Not corrupted, not formatted, completely empty. As if every byte of memory had been pulled out during debriefing. Our commanding officer listened quietly, nodded, wrote notes, then gave the official explanation. The ridge is a geological anomaly, magnetic interference, equipment malfunction. Alpha Team likely fell into a ravine. Bureaucratic nonsense. He didn't believe it either. But orders were orders. Never speak of Silent Ridge again. Alpha Team was declared missing in action. Case closed. Paperwork filed. But the truth stayed with us, etched behind our eyes whenever we tried to sleep. Silent Ridge wasn't a location. It wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was alive, it was aware, and it chose who stayed and who walked away. Section IX. Final Ironside DNT. 3 months later, Ridgepoint Listening Base shut down overnight. No warning, no explanation. Dozens of personnel reassigned. We packed our gear and left. But on my final night, I returned alone to the edge of the forest just to take one last look. The wind whispered through the trees. At least, I thought it was the wind. Then it shifted, deepened, and for one fleeting second, I heard a familiar voice. A voice I hadn't heard since before the mission. Hell, we're still here. Alpha Team. Calling from somewhere inside the ridge, somewhere we couldn't follow, somewhere that didn't follow the rules of our world. I left immediately. I've never gone back. But sometimes, when the night is quiet, too quiet, I hear the wind go silent. And I know the ridge is still watching, waiting, choosing.